Hey everybody, we are back with our third and final video about the Powkiddy x18s. We gave you our first impressions, then we completed some hardware mods. Now we're going to talk about software. In the background here you can see that we're running Arc browser with a custom theme, and we're going to go over exactly how we set up our Arc browser theme, what we think the best settings are, where you're going to find there are some bumps in the road when you go to set up Arc browser and use it as your default home launcher. So obviously you see in front of you an interface that allows us to surf through handheld and consoles that are loaded onto this device. Now this particular theme comes with intro videos for each console and handheld. So you'll see right now we're selected on Super Nintendo. Down one, we get Atari 2600. One more, and it's Game Boy Advance. And so on, and so forth. Now this is a very visually appealing interface. However, it does take a little bit to scroll through these individual systems. And it does take a second for the videos to load. So if you don't like that kind of hop in and out of the display, this theme may not be for you. However, there are lots of other themes that Arc browser supports, and there's lots of other themes that you can use for this device. But this is the one that looks most visually appealing in our opinion. Now, one of the things that we had to do was come up with some custom console images there. We were able to find them on a forum, specifically on an NVIDIA Shield forum, which is a very popular device for Arc browser. But you'll see that if we kind of click through, it does flash a little bit and get a little bit of some jarring, video throughout the display here. One of the things that I want to caution you on when you're using themes in Arc browser is specifically on the x18s. For whatever reason, when you load your themes onto the SD card of the device instead of the built-in storage, when the device starts, if you're using Arc browser as your default launcher, the SD card doesn't fully load fast enough. So the theme doesn't load completely, and you end up with maybe a video playing in the background, but none of the images on the consoles. A jarring experience. So if you're going to be using this theme, and any theme with Arc browser, honestly, and you're going to be using it with the x18s, make sure that you copy that themes folder to the local storage. That's how you're going to get the best experience. One other thing that you're going to run into is an issue with formatting your orientation correctly for your HDMI out port. This is connected to an HDMI capture card. That's how I'm capturing the video from the x18s, and I've had a hell of a time trying to get it to format correctly with the correct orientation. And in addition to that, if the device goes to sleep at any time, the image disappears from the screen and does not come back. So some very specific caveats to using Arc browser as your home launcher with a theme setup on the x18s. The back end of this device is running Lineage OS, put together by Black Seraph as a custom firmware for the x18s. And I can't say enough good things about this particular custom firmware for Android. I think Lineage OS is far and away one of the best custom firmwares on any Android device, quite frankly. The caveat to that is Powkiddy has not opened up their kernel source code to anyone outside of the company. And so the only thing that doesn't quite work correctly on this device with Lineage OS is standby. Typically, there's a clamshell device and you're able to just simply close the lid and the device goes into standby. And with Lineage OS, it does go into standby. However, every few minutes, the kernel wakes the device as it's polling in standby. And obviously that can be a huge battery drain. If every few minutes the device wakes up, the display turns on, it pulls for a moment, and then goes back to standby. Now, I've been in touch with Black Seraph, and he is working on a fix. I don't know if he's going to make any headway with that. There's been a lot of discussion in some development forums that I've been monitoring, but right now the kernel source is not available, and this current version of Lineage OS does continue to have that wake problem, which is not really that much of a deal breaker. You just have to remember to actually power off the device after you're not using it. If you leave it on and you leave it in standby mode, the battery will drain quickly. That's probably the only drawback to Lineage OS that I can see, and the benefits far outweigh that single drawback. So enough surfing around in this menu while we're talking. Let's take you into what it's going to look like inside any one of these consoles or handhelds. So we'll start with Super Nintendo, one of my favorites. Obviously, this is a very visually appealing front end with whatever games you have loaded here. Like with all of the Android Arc browser setups, you are able to scrape all of these images from several different sources. This particular theme has this set up in this way. It's called the Arcade GUI interface. It's my favorite. I think it does a great job presenting all the games, giving you a little bit of some read up on it if you're interested or you care. And I just like the way it kind of presents all of this and sets it all up. And so the last thing we're going to try here, which is a test that I always like to run. Obviously, the Super FX games are difficult for some devices and some chipsets to emulate, and so I always like to pick a Super FX game, Star Fox, to try and go ahead and test its capability. And you'll see as it loads up, audio's pretty good, and there is absolutely no stutter. The audio is crisp and clear. There's absolutely no interruption. It's loud and it's fluid. Now, I have not customized this in any way. This is Super or SNES 9X for Android, downloaded from the Play Store with no adjustments whatsoever. And as you can see, it immediately works without a problem. We'll get into a little bit of some gameplay here just so that you can kind of see what the experience is like. Obviously, if you're familiar with these devices, you'll know that by this time we would have already been struggling on chipsets with less capability. But just to prove the point, we'll get into the first level of Star Fox here, and you can enjoy me poorly playing one of my favorite games. One of the number one ways you can determine whether or not a device is emulating correctly is by the audio. And there's no stutter, no cracking, no flickering, nothing. And you'll see that the gameplay here is fantastic. I will say that right now this device is most limited by its hardware button interface, because the button itself, the D-pad, the buttons, they're just not as responsive as I want them to be. They're certainly not as responsive as the original SNES controller, and it can take a couple of clicks, a couple of presses to really get this controller interface to do what I wanted to do, specifically the D-pad. Even though we took care of those hardware mods and did everything we could to try to upgrade the device, I gotta say, I've been using this device pretty steadily now for the last month, and it's just not cutting it for us. Though the power is here, we have no problem running any Super FX game, including Yoshi's Island 2. I've tested it on my own. The downfall to this device is simply its hardware controller interface. So we'll leave it there for now, and we're back at our launcher. So just a quick gameplay video there for you, just to kind of reinforce the hardware capabilities of this device. Obviously, it has no problem with Super Nintendo. N64 is going to play very well. You have no issues with N64 games at all in this chipset. DS games are going to play great. GameCube is going to be difficult. Some games are going to work better than others. You can probably play through about half the catalog of GameCube, but it's not going to be everything all the time with no stutter. PlayStation 1 is a breeze. Obviously, Sega Genesis or Sega Mega Drive plays without a problem. The only issue with this is obviously the controller itself. Some games require those 6 buttons, and you'd have to map those individually for that device. Last but not least, this is an Android device, and so we have the ability to load and use Android games, one of which is Asphalt Airborne 8, or for instance, Fortnite, if you want to try and load that. However, it's not working right now because the pirated APK that is available won't connect. Jetpack Joyride is a great little hop in and out. Simple Rockets is a game I play all the time, and some others. I've even tried to get Wolfenstein Return to Castle Wolfenstein working on this device, but it's not quite there yet. So there are definitely some Android applications that you'll be able to run on this device as well. This is not going to be a tutorial about how to load Lineage OS onto your X18s. It's not a tutorial about how to get Arc browser set up for themes. There's lots of resources on the internet. You can find that. So this is just a quick overview about what we think is best and what looks better, best, and not so great. This looks great. I'm a big fan of this setup. I think it's very visually appealing, and I think it adds a little bit of some flash and flare to the device. That being said, there are lots of other choices out there in themes, and you can kind of locate those, available on the internet forums. A quick Google search will get you what you need. So if you have any comments or questions, feel free to leave a comment down below, and we'll try to monitor the comments and reply. I will leave a link in the video down below on where you can find these themes. Some of the NVIDIA forums that I have been, I've seen for all of these console images, and this theme in particular, and maybe the Arc browser website where you can look up and kind of learn about how Arc browser works and how the theming works and so on. This software is available on any Android device, including your Android cell phone. You can load Arc browser onto that device and use it to browse your retro game collection. And it is independent of whatever emulator you want to use. If there are specific emulators you want to use, if you only like to use RetroArch, you can connect this to every single RetroArch repository, or every single RetroArch core you want to load. You can connect it to any emulator you want to use. So I hope you enjoyed the video. This is a quick overview and some description about how we have our X18s set up. Hit that subscribe button if you want to keep up on new videos that we're going to be posting. Our intention is to post one video a week. We've been pretty good about that lately, so stay tuned for more. We're going to keep using this device for probably another month, and at the end of that, we'll probably post another video of what our conclusion was, and what if this is going to replace our daily carry kit. And I won't give away what that is just yet. Hope you enjoyed the video. Thanks for watching. We'll see you on the next one.